talk. Now, I'm gonna create a brand new subject today, even though I've got a long list of things to talk about. Why do I have a blue pen? I need to go and get my black pen. Excuse me, please. It's called OCD, don't worry about it. And my heart go bad. I boot up. Okay, so, hi. Hello there. I'm actually really excited to talk about this one. That's why I made it up 2 days ago. Sexual confidence. Sexual confidence. Oh, thank God for that. The shower has stopped. Sarcastic perks of living in not a very modern place. Welcome to this video. I'm very excited to do this video because I notice so many things in life, right? And then I notice myself walking around. That's how I walk around. No, I don't walk around like that. I like to be factual when I speak. I do not walk around like that. I walk around like, I have no idea, because I don't think about myself when I'm out. Doesn't really matter, because we're here to talk about sexual confidence. Now, I think it's appropriate. We need to start with self-confidence. I think that, yeah, how you behave sexually highly depends on how you were brought up and the things that you were taught and how you were taught to look at yourself and how you were taught to look at other people. And I feel like sexuality is highly based on that. Now, some people come away from that because they're just like very independent, and then some people come away from that based on education and experience, right? But mainly, we get this everywhere, right? We become what we're taught to become. So unfortunately, confidence is not something that is highly taught everywhere, right? So then you've got a lot of people who may suffer in that department. Wait. I was having a moment with myself today, right? And then I caught myself trying to do something. And I didn't catch myself trying to do it at first, right? All I caught is that I don't like what I'm seeing, because I was doing so and I said I don't like what I'm seeing in myself, right? And then I was like, but why? Why is because you look like you're trying too hard. And I was like, okay, how can I look, because I'm always trying to fix things as well, so how can I look like I'm not trying too hard and see if that makes it look better? What happened is that it changed. So at first when I was trying too hard, it looked terrible, and then when I stopped trying too hard and then just like allowed it to be what it is, mixed with myself, but not trying too hard, just mixed with everything that I am. Anyway, so then this was an observation that led me to think, maybe this has something to do with everything. Because I always get told, yeah, that I'm very confident. And in contrary to that, because I understand how it looks like, right? Because I'll go into a room, I can take control of the room. I'm also very expressive. If something needs to be said, I'll say it. And then if something is a mistake or if something's not being done properly, I'll turn up and I'll be like, okay, and then I'll say something. And people call that confident, right? I didn't see that as confident for a very long time. I just thought that that was just the way that I was, right? And it's, oh, Nayna, you're very confident, because I was understanding the word confident in a different way, right? Because confidence, I think, comes in many different areas that we don't really look at. Like, we just call somebody confident when really they're confident at something. But I was realizing in this moment I was having myself where I was trying too hard and then I stopped trying too hard and then it resolved the problem. I was like, wait a minute, doesn't that sound a bit right though? Like that when you try too hard, it doesn't look right. And when you just try at a normal standard, so then when you allow something to be displayed as it is, so you're not trying to display it, you're not trying to show it to somebody, you're just allowing it to be. I felt like that was the answer to confidence. That's the beginning of confidence, right? It's just allowing something to be what it is. And the truth is, which I know we all hate to admit it yet, compared to trying too hard and leaving it as it is, right? The one that as it is always much more preferred. Because I'm just thinking of a man in a tux suit, right? So you got a man in a tux, right? He's tried hard enough to get into a tux, which I want to call that a natural want for something. He naturally wants to do that, right? So he's not forcing to put on a tux, he wants to put on a tux, right? And then he puts on the tux, the suit, and then he goes out and then puts on this whole persona to fit the suit, right? Because he wants to come across in a particular way. Then you've got another man who wants to wear the tux, puts on the tux, and then just let the tux do the talking for itself. And they don't put on a character to match the tux. They just allow the tux to be with them. And the more attractive one to me out of those two is the guy who just allows the tux to talk for itself. Why? Because when somebody tries too hard, it's uncomfortable. I don't know why. When somebody tries too hard, it's uncomfortable. Maybe it's because from the outside, right, looking into somebody who's trying too hard, you can see that it's very unnecessary, because if you just allowed it to be, it will be pleasing enough, right? But here I am and I'm witnessing you trying too hard when you don't need to. That makes me feel uncomfortable. And then sometimes it doesn't, right, make somebody feel uncomfortable. I see you trying too hard and I just appreciate it, and then that's fine, and then we just like laugh about it. But I'm aware that you're trying hard, and I'm aware that you would look better if you didn't try hard, but I accept you for who you are, right? So there's all these different streams. The point I'm making about self-confidence, starting with the sexual confidence, yeah, is that I feel like the beginning to real self-confidence of like, I am good enough, I am amazing. I feel like that starts with displaying what you are as you are, instead of trying to be something more than what you are. Because what you are is good enough if you just allowed it to shine. But because you have all these thoughts in your head about yourself in a negative light, then you're trying to change and cover up in all of this stuff, when really, if you could just switch off the thoughts for a second, aside from all of that, if you didn't have all of that and you weren't trying too hard, what you already are would be good enough and cute enough and interesting enough to watch, right? But for some reason your brain got in the way and said, no, it's not, because look at this in my face, look at that in my body, look at that in my character. Of course I need to change that. Of course I need to like take that and make it into something else. Of course I need to try more to cover up this side, right? Because look at that, I'm embarrassed of that. People tell me that that's not good, right? The problem with that is that all of those thoughts, and from the outside world telling you that's not good enough, or you telling yourself that's not good enough, the problem with that is that it all came from a negative perspective. And the problem with a negative perspective is that it's flawed. This is a whole other conversation, right? Because people believe that good and bad are supposed to exist together, but for me they're not, and one is flawed and one is perfect. So if you're judging yourself based on flawed perspective and other people's flawed perspective, and then you're trying to mold yourself based on those flawed perspective, then then I feel like that's a picture that you're painting that's not necessarily your best self. And I feel like your best self is the actual natural self that you are. And if you allowed yourself, without all of the negative stuff, to just be who you are, I find this hard myself, right? But not really, but I do, in terms of like, I'm very... When I say weird, that's a massive umbrella, right? And people call me weird all the time. They go, oh Nayna, you're crazy. Oh Nayna, you're really different. Oh Nayna. And I could either try to make that different, which would be me trying too hard to just be normal. Or I could just be who I am naturally, which does all these weird things, right? And then people, and when I say people, because sometimes people don't want people, they just want to be left alone. Like me, I just want to be left alone sometimes. But what I'm saying is that you get to appreciate yourself, and people get to appreciate you when you just are your natural self. And I feel like the more you do that, the more confident you become with yourself, because now you're basing your confidence on facts. You're not basing them on a version of yourself that you're trying to become, because that's not who you are currently. And this confidence, yeah, when you live in that place of like, I accept and display what I am as I am, and depending on what I like is depending on what direction I move, depending on how I maneuver myself, but I'm never trying too hard for a particular person or situation or image or cover up. I'm only ever gonna try at something that makes me excited, that's natural to me. Anyway, so then moving on to the sexual side of things, yeah. So here's the thing that's really interesting, yeah. This is the part, yeah, where I feel like it's heavily based on how you are brought up. Because some people, and when I say brought up here, it's not as if your mum and dad is sitting there telling you this is how you're going to behave at sex, this is how you should behave at sex, but all of these different things, yeah, that have happened around you, that you've saw, that you've witnessed, and that you've taken on, they all have molded you to be who you are today. And today, how you behave, everybody's different, because everybody had all these different informations being given to them, so then they behave differently, right? But here's the thing that's fascinating to me. You've got one woman, and I have to go to the woman here, because sometimes men are insecure in sex, and actually maybe they are more insecure than what we're aware of, but women, there's a problem there. We really need to speak about this. It's fascinating that one woman would go to a man and she'll be like, I don't care about you, please be quiet, I'm going to please myself on you, shut up and don't get involved and let me just do my thing. Then you got another woman that's total opposite to that, and she's like, I'm scared, I'm gonna give myself to you, and then you do what you want with me, and then hopefully you like it. I'm looking at these two women. That woman over there, I'm like, I don't ever want to be that woman. No, thank you. That woman over there, I'm like, I prefer to be her, but I also feel like that's a bit of an imbalance because men have feelings too, so I can't just be like, shut up, you know. But what's happening between these two characters here is that the mindset is completely different. And this is the reason why I'm doing this video, is because most women exist in that space over there where they're scared, they give themselves up like they are a toy, like a sexual toy that lays down and takes the body, right? And most women are like that, and I don't like that picture. No thank you, because what's happening here is that we are submitting ourselves without understanding what's going on. So then what happens with these two different women here is that that woman over there, eventually she's gonna feel unappreciated, because I think being a bit submissive like that is not the biggest sexual goddess energy, right? That woman's gonna end up going down a path where sexuality is not gonna be 100% fulfilled in herself or her partner, right? Because she's scared, she's submissive, she's like, okay, take me, and then she's like, did you like it, right? And then this woman here, she doesn't care if she's appreciated or not, number one. Number two, she's not there to please you and to ask if you're having a good time. She's there for pure selfish reasons, which she's aware of, to please her body, because she's aware of the pleasure, she wants the pleasure, and it's nothing to do with what you appreciate or not appreciate. She's there for her own sexual pleasure, right? And I just want to pause here and just like say for a second that because most women are like that, I feel like then women want to know, well, hold on, so then what am I doing wrong? How can I be more like that? And like I'm saying, is that we are taught this, right? So it's not even that it's your fault. Like, you're taught with all these different informations how to be submissive and how to offer yourself up, and then how to then be scared that you're doing something wrong, and then be scared that what you're doing is not even good enough anyway. So then you ask like, oh, are you happy, right? And then you've got the other woman who's taught different than that, and then she's like different in her mindset towards that, right? But like I said, the problem with this woman over there is that she becomes vulnerable, and then she becomes inadequate, she becomes unappreciated, she has low self-confidence, she has low sexual drive, she has low everything, right? Because the power is no longer inside of her, right? And in this one, the power, that's not what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about sexual pleasure here, and I'm gonna do that, right? But from the outside, you can see that the power is inside of her, which leads me to sexual confidence, right? Because the beginning of that picture for me looks like the woman who knows what she wants, right? And it's not about being submissive or giving yourself away, even though all of that is happening. The main goal is not that. The main goal is sexual pleasure. And a lot of women, because they've not really experienced the height of sexual pleasure in orgasm, internal orgasm, then they don't know that that end goal is there. Because then if they did, they probably would overnight turn into that self-confident woman where it's like, no, we're here for sexual pleasure. Maybe this is why men find it easy to be selfish, right? Because they've experienced the sexual pleasure at its full completion. So then because they want that, then the selfishness probably comes naturally, where it's like, no, I want that, let's push everything away, I want that. And because the woman doesn't have that as a reference, she doesn't know how to be selfish, because there's nothing to be selfish for. So then she's there trying to make sense of this sexuality, right? And her sense is to maybe be kind and be nurturing and then give myself and when it's really not the energy that's needed in sexual activity. Anyway, so as you can probably tell, the submissive woman who's taught how to just give herself and doesn't really fully understand sexual pleasure, you could probably tell that her confidence in sexuality would be low. And then the woman who knows about sexual pleasure, her confidence in sexuality would be pretty high. And not in an obvious way, because again, going back to trying too hard, right? Because a lot of pornography is made for that purpose alone, of trying too hard to get a point across that happens in a more intimate level, but pornography can't show those like intimate levels without it becoming a love story. So then they can't, so then they have to exaggerate everything in a way that's not real. So I'm not talking about trying too hard here, and actually I'm talking about the opposite, because the woman who's confident, first of all, she's been able to reach her orgasm, and then she's allowed that to be what it is, and that gives her a self-confidence that's not really spoken about. It doesn't really need to be spoken about, which is, I know what I want and I'm gonna get it. So that's confidence number one. And then number two, because she acts like that and she's very aware of her sexuality, probably most of her partners will be enticed by her because of the confidence. And then the woman who is not confident, she can probably find love and comfort, right, as somebody who really adores her and loves her. But the sexual side of it, she will know and he would know, or however that goes, that it could be more enticing. So to conclude this sexual confidence that I'm talking about here, yeah, I feel like sexuality, this is very contradictive, right? We get taught the opposite, yeah. But hold on for a second, yeah. I feel like the next step for us to heal sexuality, maybe that's how I should put it, right, is to be selfish. But when I say selfish here, I think we should look inwards as to how to please ourselves. Not give two thoughts about what's going on in the external world just for a moment. It should be about what you're experiencing and how you're feeling. So then if you're trying to give that moment to the outside world, and I know that this is going to change over time, but I'm just saying so we can learn how to be confident in sex, right? Because eventually it has to be about the two people. You have to come together and you have to be aware of each other. But because we don't even know how to meet them halfway equally, right? In my case, I don't know how to meet the man equally halfway because he is already able to achieve a heightened sexual experience and I'm not, because I have no idea how to orgasm inside myself. So then I'm not meeting him halfway equally, right? So for me to be able to meet him halfway, first we've got to sort out the problem, right? And I feel like that problem has to be an inward thing rather than this partnership thing. And I know this is contradictory, I bet you, to what a lot of people say, oh, let's work through this together, let's do this together. Because I just feel like the mind, yeah, is so creative. In particular, my mind is so creative that if I was to have somebody else trying to help me through this stuff, yeah, I would be like, shut up and go away, leave me alone. I'd be very aware of everything because my mind is just so, I couldn't see it for something innocent. I'd see it as, oh, we're trying here, oh, we're trying to have an orgasm, oh, we're trying, instead of having the experience of having an orgasm, right? So I feel like this thing has to be an inward journey for you to learn your body, and it cannot be based on the external experience of what somebody else is thinking or what somebody else is feeling. And to back this up here, I had an experience where for the first time I felt a little bit cheeky because I'd never been submissive, right? But then I have, because I was caring and I wasn't experiencing an orgasm and I was trying to give myself. Obviously I have a high temper and all of that comes with it, right? But ultimately I was being this person, right? And then I decided that I want to live like that person because that person over there is kind of like inspiring me. It's like, what? You get to do all of that and what am I doing in my life? Like, why are you doing that and I'm not doing that? So then I decided that I was gonna do that. I came across a situation where I was able to kind of do that. So then my mindset was a little bit different. Sorry, I paused there because like maybe it has a lot to do with a mindset where it's like maybe we have to teach each other about this mindset of like how do we become a balanced version of like a giving, nurturing woman and then a taking woman. Like how do we become a balance of the two? And maybe this is a long conversation, right? So it's more about influencing the mindset. But then here I am, I had this mindset of like, no, I want to be the leader in the sexual part of the relationship, right? So then I had experience and something different happened than all of the other times in my 15 years of active sexuality or however long it's been. No, it's been 19 years, right? 19 years. Now that's embarrassing that I've not been able to achieve an orgasm in 19 years. But having said that, I don't necessarily sleep around too much. Okay, so then I went to this experience thinking I want what I want, and I had a totally different experience than what I had for the past 19 years. And I felt something different happening inside of my body, where it was the beginning, I think, of finding an orgasm, of it not feeling like, I like this, but what's the point of this? But I like it. It feels good. And then obviously then head to my clitoris, so then it could really feel good, right? But I like this, but this is for you, right? And it started moving away from that into something else of like, oh, wait a minute. And bearing in mind that I was the leader in this situation. Yes, I've been on top before, but not with this mentality, right? And I just feel like me taking that control for myself and not for like, oh, let me please you. It was for me. It felt way different. And it felt like the beginning of finding a new experience inside of my body, and I really liked it. And it wasn't about pleasing somebody else. You might as well have not been there, but you were there because I felt everything. But it wasn't about you. It was about 100% about me, you know. And it was just a journey that I was having in myself of like, wait, I like, oh, but I like that. And I could not alliterate this more, how it was nothing to do with the other person. But this is what I mean about the process of getting to this like self-confidence in sex, right? Where you need to take these steps, and then we could talk about the partnership at the end, right? But at first we need to sort ourselves out. And I feel like this is how to do it. I've taken these steps and I shall come back and talk more about it. So to round all of that up here, I feel like confidence in sexuality comes from giving yourself permission to be who you are naturally and want to pleasure you without wanting to pleasure anything else. That I feel like that's the beginning step. And once you start doing those things, you're gonna see yourself changing. And then maybe you're gonna look back after 5 years and you're gonna be like, I can't believe I was this submissive woman who was scared of riding you. I've heard so many stories because I talk about sexuality all the time, right? Women that sometimes are scared because they want to come across as if like, oh yes, I know it all and I want to be pleasing you and do because they want to impress somebody, right? And that is not real and it's not true. And that's why you feel insecure, because what you're trying to present to the man is incorrect and it's not true. You do have insecurities about how to do this. So what you're putting forward is trying too hard. Instead of doing that, we should go to the root of actually understanding what you're doing and actually having the experience of what you're saying you're having. Then you will have real confidence. Then everything will change. And I love that picture. I love that picture for all people. So I hope this video has been helpful. It certainly put more perspective into my brain. Until next time, have an amazing evening and I'll be back with more chit chat.